Hi, and welcome back to ENTP Life. Today I'm shooting live in Panama City. I decided to take a little bit of a getaway, which is kind of typical for me. I came down to Panama City with a few of my buddies. They're my traveling partners. We do this annual trip every Martin Luther King Day weekend where we pick a country that we've never really hung out in, and we just spend some time there. So this year, the city was Panama City, and so far, I really like it. Usually I stay in Airbnbs, which is the topic of this video, but this time around we ended up staying in a hotel because the Airbnb that we originally booked was a complete disaster. First of all, they advertised it as being a 4-bedroom entire apartment rental, and it turned out to be 4 bedrooms, but the host was living in the 4th bedroom, and we didn't each have our own rooms. The apartment wasn't even that nice either. And she had this ginormous, like, Garfield cat. And I'm definitely allergic to cats. It triggers my asthma, and it could get pretty bad for me if cats are around. So we decided to kind of dump that apartment rental idea and ended up picking up a hotel at really good prices. It was only like $60 a night here. And that was actually cheaper than our Airbnb, which typically doesn't happen. And it's a decent hotel, nice sized rooms, casino downstairs, located right in the mix of things. So it's been great. But today's video is not about Panama City. It's about my Airbnb. Now, a few weeks back, or maybe even months now, I did a video where I was showing what it's like to get an apartment in New York City, how much an apartment cost, and that I planned on using that apartment for when I'm in New York, to stay in New York, but when I'm not in New York, to have it listed on Airbnb. So as I promised, I was going to circle back to kind of go over the final look of that apartment and to go over the numbers and how much I'm actually making on this Airbnb rental. Now, it turns out that the average seems to be just about $3,500 a month in income. And I'm going to break it down to you as to how that income is derived, the benefits and I guess cons of hosting an apartment on Airbnb, and give you as much insight into what it's like to be an Airbnb host in New York City and what you could expect, financially and what you can do with that money, right? So first, I'm going to show you exactly how this apartment looks. Now, this apartment is a studio apartment. It's only about 300 square feet. And the way that I have it set up here is I actually took furniture from one of my other properties that I was using as like, what is it called? Staging furniture, right? So this is furniture that I bought that I've moved from house to house because I do flip properties, and sometimes I like to stage them to give the buyers a sense of how they can decorate the space and how to use the space, right? Yeah, that's the only reason why you would stage it, right? It's to make the house feel more like a home instead of this empty box, right? So I had this extra furniture. I had this small 2-seater couch, leather love seat. So I brought that in. This table here, sorry about that. This table here is actually handmade. I found this table design on both Etsy and YouTube. I decided to make the table myself. It's just 4 fruit crates pieced together with like a cutout in the center that is actually the top of a wine box. So it's like a nice little wine table and coffee table, right? So I made that for like $100, I think, or maybe even less, maybe like $70, because I had to buy the 4 milk crates, some stain, some polyurethane screws, and piece it together. So that's a cheap piece of furniture. Now, this is a studio apartment, so it's only 1 room, a kitchen, and a bathroom. So just to give you a few more perspectives as to what the people who are looking to book their apartment see, this is the first picture. This is just an alternative view here that shows, what it's like from the brick wall facing the bed. This is the corner looking out towards the front door and towards the bathroom. And the kitchen, which is tiny, but it's functional. So some of the things that I realized after I took these initial photos is that my kitchen was missing a coffee machine, which I think would be helpful for people who like their morning coffee. So I got a little mini Keurig that's not seen there. I also got a blender to make smoothies because I like to make smoothies for my morning breakfast. And I also think that I should get a microwave there because I don't have one there, and it might be good for people who are heating up leftovers. I really don't use microwaves that much myself, but I could see how a guest could benefit from having that. This is just the alternative view of the kitchen. Like I said, the kitchen's super tiny. It's like a galley style, but there's not much to it. And here's a picture of the bathroom. Now, the apartment is pretty bare bones, as you can see, but it has a lot of your typical New York City features. It's got a brick wall, wood floors. It does let in a decent amount of light, so it's not too dark and dreary. It's a walk-up building, but it's on the first floor, so it's not many steps for someone to go up. And it doesn't have a doorman, which is kind of critical for New York because there's this attack on Airbnb host in New York. They don't want you renting out your whole apartments, and they don't want landlords to just turn their apartment buildings into these B&Bs because it competes with the hotels and a bunch of political BS. But this is not a doorman building. It's just keyed access, not very monitored, which is going to be important if you're going to be doing whole apartment rentals, either getting the approval of your landlord or being able to kind of sneak it under the radar. If you need to do that, you're not going to want to have this highly managed building because chances are they're going to give you a hard time about the guests coming in. So when I picked this apartment, I actually noticed that there were a few other rentals in there because I saw people checking in and checking out. So I knew that it would be Airbnb friendly. So the apartment is pretty basic. It's on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. And for those of you who don't know the Upper East Side, it's a fairly family-oriented, kind of well-off neighborhood, I would say. Plenty of hospitals, restaurants, shops, walking distance to Central Park, 1 block away from one of the subway trains. So it's easy to shoot into Midtown or to kind of check out the tourist scene. So it's in a nice section, and people who are looking to visit New York and stay in New York ultimately would like to be in that location, as well as, anywhere from, I would say, 14th Street to 86th Street in New York City. You're going to be able to get around all of the major destinations fairly easy. But being on the Upper East Side, you have good access to Midtown and a lot of the tourist attractions, like 4 or 5 stops away from Times Square. You could take the train into Brooklyn. You could take the train into the Bronx or up in Manhattan. So you have a lot of options. So that's ultimately why I chose it. And if you do remember, I pay $2,300 a month for this studio apartment, and it actually averages out to $2,100 a month because I get 1 month free for the first year, but that's the last month. So I'm paying $2,300 currently. Now, to get started and the financials behind this kind of investment, or whatever you want to call it, was around $6,100. Okay, so I had to put down 1 month security for the apartment rental, right, and my security deposit, and then I also had to put up the first month's rent, right. So that was a total of $4,600 up front. Then it's about another $1,500 in getting the apartment set up, furniture. I had some of the furniture, but I had to get a new bed. Just a minute. Buenas. Sorry, I just had sorry about that little break. I just had housekeeping come by. So what was I saying here? So the move-in cost was $4,600, but I had to make sure I staged the property, right? So I had some of the furniture, like the couch and the table, but I needed a new dresser. That ran me about $300 to get. Then I bought a standing closet just for extra closet space. That also cost me $300 plus another $150 to have somebody assemble it. My bed and my bed frame was actually from another property, but that would have ran me another $500. And then I had to get the little odds and ends for the apartment. So little decorations, forks, knives, plates, the coffee machine, the blender. So all in, I spent just under $1,500 just getting the space furnished and ready for someone to occupy it. Now in this apartment, I also have 3 sets of sheets. So in between turnovers, I don't have to like laundry each of them each time. So I'm able to just kind of turn over that apartment that way. And when it's down to the last set of sheets or towels, then the person who helps me with cleaning, she drops them off at the laundry. They get cleaned by the, I guess, the staff at the laundromat, and she's able to turn over the apartment with the last set, okay? So that's typically how I have my operation set up. But as far as the startup cost, all in, you're looking at $6,100 for an apartment like this. Now, what am I renting this apartment for? Okay, so when you're setting up an apartment on Airbnb, and if you're interested also in being a host on Airbnb, just check the referral link that I have down below. If you use that referral link, it helps me out. You know, I think they give me some sort of like little commission or something like that for using that link. So please, if you are interested in becoming a host, just click through with that link and set up your account that way. So when you're setting up your host account on Airbnb, they give you an estimate of how much you can potentially earn on that apartment. And when I was setting it up, it was telling me something like $2,300 a month. And by asking around, you know, to other people that I know who are doing the same, I felt that that was kind of a low estimate. I don't know why they said it was only $2,300. But it turns out that I'm making closer to $3,600 a month, okay? So when you're setting up your account, they ask you how much do you want to rent your space for. And they give you a suggested price based on other properties in the area. And they were trying to get me to host my property for $80 or $90 a night, which I thought was absurd because a hotel room in New York City in this area would run you $300 to $400 a night. So, you know, I believe that people would take the apartment for maybe $200, $150, $160. And I looked around, I saw, you know, studios and one bedrooms renting for around that $130 to $150 price. But Airbnb prefers that you have some, I guess, leeway in pricing so that they can run promotions and get you booked up. So my bottom rate is $97. And then they'll adjust upwards based on like the demand. Right, so if there's like a basketball game or a major event, or it's the holidays like New Year's and Christmas, they jack the daily rate up. So what I'm starting to see is that I'm averaging around 130, 140 a night. Okay, and let's just turn back over to my screen so I can show you exactly what the platform looks like from the host standpoint when you're looking at your progress and your money, and show you exactly how the financials break down. So the first thing that we're looking at here were my earnings for 2019, okay? Now, I got this apartment I started my lease November 1st of 2019, and I needed to take about 2 weeks or so to get everything settled, to get my cable turned on, switch over my utilities, get the apartment staged, get my photos up, get it onto Airbnb. So it wasn't till about the middle of the month that I started to book my space. So for the first month, you see here that I was received $1,977 in booking fees, okay? And that was for half of the month. So that gives you an idea of how much I earned. Now, the following month, which is December, and which is probably the peak month in New York City for bookings, was $3,533. I can't say, I really can't say dollar amounts when it's not like even numbers. If it's not like 55, 65, 75,000, 100, whatever, it's because I'm so used to talking in like big numbers and just kind of ballpark numbers that when it's time to say like the dollars and cents, I always jack it up. But for December, I made $3,500, right? And when you look at the stats, it shows that my occupancy rate was 80%. I had a total of 43 nights booked and 11 nights unbooked for the month, for those 2 months. I collected $390 in cleaning fees, which is what I charge to the tenants, and I just pass it through to the person who cleans my apartment. She charged me $60 every cleaning. I charge $65 in cleaning fees because that extra $5 is for like supplies or towards the laundry expense. So that kind of hedges out to earning me enough. Now that's not per day, that's per cleaning that's built in. I might actually raise the cleaning fee just so I can make a little more money. I might raise it up to like $75 for the cleaning fee. And then that will kind of balance me out a little more for those supplies and the laundry expense. So I didn't get any fees for any cancellations. And that's my earnings for 2019, okay? Now, when you start to host on Airbnb, you'll be so freaking surprised, especially in a market like New York, I'm sure in San Francisco, Miami, bigger cities or high tourist areas, you're gonna book very quickly. I turned on my Airbnb account and I think within 2 hours I had a booking. And I was freaking shocked. And you're allowed to open up your calendar to 6 months, I think, out in advance. So I was getting bookings from day one for like hosting in November, then December, then January got booked. Then it was into March. February was a little slow. And then every single day I'll get inquiries and bookings. And I set up my account to function as a instant book for people who have like good review history, right? So then they don't have to really talk to me and ask me any questions. But I will get people who are interested in booking my space who may have never booked on Airbnb before. So I'll talk to them a little bit, get a sense of who they are, what they're trying to do in New York City. If it's someone who's just looking to crash for 1 night or 2 nights, I think I even have a 3-night minimum as the amount of minimum days that they could stay there. That avoids the people who are just trying to use my place to just like hook up or have a party or anything like that. It's people who are going to be around for a while, who are truly coming to New York City for a vacation. Now, what I look for in a guest is someone who is well traveled, because then I know that they understand how Airbnb works. And I also look for people who aren't local, right? It's like I don't understand why I would lease to somebody who lives in New York City, right? Why? Unless they were, from Queens or the outer boroughs and maybe they're having a romantic weekend or they're booking for a friend who might be visiting in town and they want to, set them up somewhere and have a hub in New York so that they can do their tourist thing and not have to travel to the outer boroughs. But typically, most of my people are coming from out of the country or out of the state, and I could see that they're legitimate travelers and that they're not going to, potentially just move into my apartment and not leave. That would be pretty problematic, right? So after turning on the account, you will get bookings right away, right? I would say if it takes you any more than a day or so to start getting bookings, I would be concerned that either your photos are no good, you're in a location that's not that popular, or your pricing is bad. Airbnb will also recommend you to adjust your pricing if your pricing is like inconsistent with what the market suggests. And they also, when they're setting you up, they will do a promotion for like a lower cost, but they rank you high so that people see you and start to book so that you don't get discouraged, okay? So Airbnb does funnel people towards you. Now, what I will advise is that they're going to give us pretty steep discount, like 20 or 30%. And if you have a hot location like I have, I started getting bookings. After the 3rd booking, I canceled that promotion immediately because I was like, people are getting, space for really cheap here. And their Airbnb's logic is, oh, you want to get reviews. But if I left it on for the entire time before I started to get reviews, it would have been weeks. And I would have had maybe, a bunch of bookings way too cheap, and then I would have gotten screwed. So I cut that off right away. So some of that November bookings and December bookings had that discount built in, so I could have earned a little more there. So if we go into 2020, I already have bookings scheduled all the way out till July of 2020. And if you look at March and April, those months are almost entirely booked out, and I'm earning $3,800, close to $3,900 in income off of this apartment that's only costing me $2,300 a month. And like I said, if you adjust for my free month, it's costing me $2,100. So look at that. I'm grossing just over my rent close to $1,800 a month when my apartment is fully booked. Let's take a look at my calendar so you can see exactly what I mean. So in looking at my calendar, you see that I had 1 week marked off in the month of January. And January is a pretty slow month for travel, I think, everywhere in the world, because people just got out of the holidays. They did their holiday traveling, their holiday spending. Kids are going back to college. So it's not that traveled. So Airbnb recommended that I do a promotion to lower the price to attract people, which I did. And I also blocked off a week for myself because I had to come to New York for business, and I was staying in my apartment. So I didn't earn for that week. So that's why my earnings for the month of January were lower. If not, they would probably be on par with what I'm earning for February. So February is almost booked out. I only have 4 days empty out of this long February month. And the revenue on that month was closer to the $3,000 mark. I can't even see that from this view. It shows me a $400 booking, a $1,300 booking, an $800 booking, and then 2 other $400 bookings. And I had some promotions running as well. So you'll see that one person is booked for 3 nights for $455. Meanwhile, I have somebody else booked for 5 nights for the same price because they took advantage of the promotion. So that's my earnings. And if you see, I'm booked out that way all the way through July. And the only reason that July isn't fully booked up in the other diagram is because it's only allowing me to book 6 months out. So it's kind of inching week by week. And as the new week opens up, I get another booking. So I'm pretty much booked out for the first half of the year. So it's January 19th of 2020, and I've already locked in $21,000 of expected revenue on this apartment, right? So if the other half of the year looks exactly the same, I'm going to make an additional $20,000 on bookings. Plus, I'm going to have the holidays, Thanksgiving, and all that again. So I might make like closer to $23,000 or $24,000 when it's all said and done for the rest of the year. So you're talking about almost $45,000 in annual earnings on one apartment, right? Once we cut out the fees for like my utilities, which are around, it's less than $100 a month. It's like for my internet, electricity, and gas, which is almost not used at all, I'm paying about $100 a month, and it's gonna fluctuate, but it's about $100 a month. And for I don't have cable because I have a smart TV. They just use their Netflix account, and people aren't coming to New York City to watch television, right? So I don't have any cable. I just have high-speed internet, and my cleaning fees, which are consistent with how frequently I'm turning over. Some months I might have 7 guests, right? So I'm going to lose maybe $500 or so of those earnings in cleaning fees, but I'm collecting it on the front side. So you're talking about maybe spending anywhere from about $2,600 a month if we're using my $2,100 rent figure for this year. So I'm looking at $2,600 a month to almost $3,000 a month in expenses if we have a lot of turnover and there's only like short stays. So I would say on average, I'm looking at around $900 to $1,000 in monthly profits based on the bookings that I have now. So, you guys already know that I'm in the process of moving my life into Colombia, right? And this is one of the things that I want you to get into your head, is that you, as someone who is looking to retire or get away from the rat race of life, you could actually come up with your own retirement plan just off of hustling Airbnbs, right? I was talking to my buddy Paul the other day about this, and he was like, he wants to get himself out of the rat race. And he was like, if he was making $5,000 to $6,000 of passive income a year, he could live, once again, anywhere in the world and be comfortable with that. It's just a matter of him getting the passive income so that he could focus on things that he really enjoys. And I told him, I was like, look, I'm doing this on Airbnb. I'm going to scale up to about 12 apartments, and I should be making around 10 grand or so a month doing that. And I was like, and I could do that with about a $70,000 spend, right? And I was like, to get to your mark, right, of $5,000 a month, you're going to have to spend maybe $35,000. I was like, so use your 401k money, your savings money, get 5 apartments in New York City, and get it done. And then you've already, within probably 3 to 5 months, have secured your $5,000 in passive income. That simple, on a $35,000 investment. I think that's pretty incredible, and I really think that's the power of this platform. And you could obviously take it further than that. You could get to 20, 30, 50 apartments if you want to. So for me, each month that I'm coming back to New York, I'm going to be getting another Airbnb apartment spooled up and going. And I'm going to give it to one of my assistants that's working either in Colombia or Venezuela or South America to manage it once it gets to the point where I have like 10, 20 of them. Right now, it's no different than sending, a DM or a response to a text message to manage this thing. This is like some of the easiest money that I'm making, in all of my investments, right? This is very, very passive. It's not that active of a business, so to speak. You just have to be in constant contact with the people who are booking, and you have to be in constant contact with your cleaning person. Now, another thing that I did as far as the checking process, it's completely self-check-in. So some Airbnb hosts will have a lockbox at their property. I seen somebody has a lockbox on a fence outside of the property. But what I decided to do was use Key Cafe. If they have a referral link, which I don't know, I've never checked. If they do have a referral link or something along those lines, I'm going to insert it below. But Key Cafe essentially is a key locker in 7-Elevens throughout America, right? There's literally a locker next to the Slurpee machine that I leave my key in, and the cleaning person can pick up the key from there, and my guest. And it's only 5 blocks away from my apartment. So I send everybody to the Key Cafe, all the key transfers happen there, and everybody checks in and checks out on their own. I don't have to meet anyone at any time to give them a key. So literally, this is a business that I can manage anywhere in the world and could essentially replace, U.S. income for very little money infused and very little capital investment. It's something that I'm recommending to anybody who's following my channel. Typically I'm talking about, typical real estate investing, buying a home, renovating the home, renting it out, right? Or flipping it for sale. This is, a cheaper option for people. Someone who doesn't have that much money or is looking to save up enough money to start flipping properties, you too can use this. Those of you who are at home and who are tired of your job and like, I'm trying to figure out this passive income thing, this is who I made this video for, okay? So I'm just trying to show you guys as many little hacks and as many little things that you could do to make money so that you can live the lifestyle that you want, right? You can, whether it's just making an extra $1,000 a month because you want to get a nicer car, or an extra $1,000 a month to pay for your education or your kids' education, this is something that you can literally do with just, $6,000 invested or $7,000 invested. If you wanted to, right? If your credit's in good shape, you could go out, get a credit card, swipe the credit card to yourself so you could get some cash in hand, and then start your Airbnb business. And then you would just be, if you wanted to, you could also just pay your minimum payment, which is probably going to be like $200 or so on that spend, and you still make the spread, right? So instead of making $900 a month, you'd be making $700 a month, but you spent none of your savings. You're just making the spread. And if you look at it from a percentage standpoint, you're making 10% a month on your money. So if your credit card is at 15% APR or 10% APR, you're only paying 10% a year when you're making 10% on that same investment profit a month. It's totally a no-brainer. You should be taking advantage of that spread and interest. So you don't have to even use your cash to get this going. You could just use your credit, right? Obviously, if you're going to be renting apartments and doing this rent-to-rent strategy, your background should check out pretty good. Your credit should be in pretty good standing. Your income should be able to show that you're able to support it. And you could even take it a step further and find somebody who has an existing apartment furnished and let them know that, hey, I want to take over and manage that apartment and I'll cover the rent. You live half of the year in Singapore, half of the year in the US. You're not monetizing your apartment, so let me monetize it for you for 6 months and we split the profits above the rent. And you won't even have to put out a single penny. It's up to you to negotiate that. For me, I don't have the time to really try to find that scenario. I could probably set somebody up to look for it. That's actually a pretty good idea. I'm going to do that as well. But for me, I'm just doing it as straightforward as possible, finding an apartment that I think would be Airbnb friendly, leasing it, going through that process, getting the furniture, moving it in, setting it up that way, and then I have this income generating property on my hands, right? Right now, this is just my only one. I'm going to probably get another one in February for move-in in March. And then month by month, I'll be adding another. And I'll keep you guys at home updated as to what my progress is. I'm looking to probably get some more Airbnbs going in other major markets. And I'm looking for people who may be willing to partner with me on this venture. So if you're interested, or if you have an apartment and you're like, or an extra property and you're thinking about trying to monetize it, reach out. Don't hesitate in reaching out. I'm always willing to answer some questions. But I fully endorse and recommend joining Airbnb as a host as a way of trying to monetize space that you already have or space that you're going to seek out and get. Make sure that you run an estimate. You could check out Airbnb's price metrics. There's different apps that even allow you to do that. You can do it in Airbnb or use other third-party apps that show you how much you could expect to earn in certain markets, and you can start your business in those markets. I actually have an extra space in one of my properties in Port Jervis that I'm going to set up as an Airbnb. It's probably going to only cost me, because it's a property that I own already, it's only going to cost me the furnishing, which is just a bed and the toiletries and those sort of things, towels, dresser, and the area rug, because it's a garage conversion that's kind of converted into a studio apartment. So it's not going to take much furnishing, and it's going to be catering to the people who are going to Port Jervis to hike and do the trails and maybe tubing down the river, the outdoorsy type. I think if I rented that in a standalone apartment, I could make maybe $600 a month on it, $650 or so. But if I'm going to try putting it on Airbnb and seeing if I can maybe squeeze out $900 or $1,000 a month on it. If I can, then I'm going to maintain that apartment that way. But this is just me kind of rambling on at this point. So just to summarize where I am on this property, I spent $6,100 getting it started. I'm currently profiting about $1,000 a month on the apartment. And it has been nothing but a pleasure and nothing but a breeze. I haven't had any problem tenants. I've had a few kind of hiccups with some of the check-ins just because of how things timed out, but they haven't been awful. It hasn't been too stressful. And as I mentioned before, highly recommend it. And if you're going to go forward and start being a host, please use the referral link below. That way I could get a little bit of money and I think you might even stand to benefit from using that referral link as well. Airbnb obviously wants a lot of apartments. They're actively competing with hotels, and the more inventory that they have, the more they're able to earn as well. So they're giving a pretty nice referral bonus for people who come on as host. So thank you for joining me here at ENTP Life. Your subscriptions, your likes, your attention obviously means a lot to me. I definitely appreciate it. If you're not already a subscriber, please take that time out to hit that subscription button. Make sure you have notifications turned on so you get alerted of whatever video I put out. We typically talk about real estate and other business moves that you can make here in the United States. Well, I want you guys to be out there monetizing your time, monetizing your imagination, so that you're able to go out and live the highest quality life that you possibly can. Thank you again. See you in the next video.